How wide is this structure?
Okay, so
these concentric circles.
I meant to bring. I brought a laser. Do you have a laser pointer in here?
No.
It's okay. So the circles themselves is about 14.5 miles across. However, if you go the complete shebang, the whole circle itself is just shy of 30 miles.
So the whole thing is 30 miles, which would be like the size of a city.
Right. Well, keep in mind the outer ring would have been water. So that wouldn't have necessarily counted. But some people will say that this is too big according to Plato's description. And let me just say that I'm like, well, hold on a second. I don't think that we should consider that because of loss of translation, that we should consider the measurements a key detail. The question becomes, is it big enough to be a city with possibly millions of people? Because the way it was described is that it was a city that was said to be busy all day, all night, rich in trade, with languages spoken from all over. So I'm like, okay. That would imply millions of people. I mean, if a city's busy all day and all night, I think of large metropolitan areas like New York, Chicago, London, whatever. And so if this was indeed an ancient or a site of an ancient civilization, well, then it would have. I mean, they're obviously not going to have skyscrapers, so it would have to be an area big enough to sustain that many people, and the Richat structure certainly does.
And so the idea would be that this would lead out to the ocean, and that these circles would be where the water is, and then the ridges would be where the structures are, where the houses and the buildings are.
And people will say, well, where is that stuff now? I'm like, well, look at it. It got obliterated.
Those people should shut the fuck up.
well,
but if you just look at what's going on with the sand and those clear water erosion marks on the sand, but that also could be wind, right? Couldn't the way that the ripples in that sand, couldn't that be wind?
Both. However, just to clarify.
Is that sand that is where the cursor's at right there?
Yes, that's all sand. However, it's also actually go to the right where it says layers, Jamie. Can you scroll in right there? Because that will show you the ripples more. So it's a combination of sand and rock.
You mean to the left?
Right
left?
there. That's what I'm talking about. Those are giant ripples. And I'm quoting. Let me just say, I'm quoting Randall Carlson, who I consider to be an expert on geological formations. And so, yeah.
Right, but isn't that what wind-driven sand looks like? If you go to dunes look like that.
Yeah, and undoubtedly.
But hold on, this is sand, right?
Yes, well, it's a combination, rock and sand in between.
Right, but this is like what it would look like if wind-driven sand and rock underneath it.
Right, so what the implication is that it was blasted by water, and then after that, the wind has done its thing and moved the sand all over it and in between.
So 20,000 years ago, this was all green, lush forest?
No, Joe. 5,000.
5,000?
So
really?
yes. So I could show you.
When did they think Atlantis was?
11,600 is allegedly when it was destroyed, which mirrors the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe. Because so Plato so this is 600 BC, and Plato said that it happened 9,000 years earlier. So that would be 11,600 years ago, which coincides with the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe, which makes it so compelling. To me, that is actual scientific evidence that indicates that Atlantis actually existed. Because it's very specific.
It is very specific, but it's not scientific, right? It's like there's no real evidence.
Okay, let me rephrase. That a civilization, let me rephrase. A civilization got fucked.
Yeah.
11,600. So never mind Atlantis. Let me rephrase. A civilization was around. The stories of it were passed down, and they got obliterated. So that's what I'm implying.
Well, we definitely know that the Younger Dryas impact theory is extremely plausible. There are, without a doubt, like many impact points on Earth where they find this tritonite, this nuclear glass, which you can get either from a nuclear explosion or you get it from some sort of a meteor impact, large scale, all over the continent. And we know that all over the planet, I should say. We know that happened. This is like real hardcore geological evidence. So if we know that there were structures before that, which we do now because of Göbekli Tepe and a few other places that they're reasonably sure were pre 11,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago, then we know that something was around back then that was very sophisticated. How sophisticated, we don't know.